The universe was old and endless, and it had rules that no one questioned. For billions of years, every intelligent species that rose among the stars learned the same truth. The laws of physics, time, and space were fixed, unchangeable, and eternal. Civilizations expanded and collapsed, empires were born and destroyed, but none dared to challenge the foundations of reality itself. It was not fear alone that kept them in line. It was acceptance. The stars had rules and the wise learned to live under them. But then came humans. The first time other species heard about them, they were dismissed as a minor civilization from a small blue planet in the edge of a spiral galaxy. Their world was young, their technology was simple compared to the ancient ones. Yet they moved fast, building machines, sending signals, and pushing into the void. Many laughed at their impatience. Many predicted they would burn themselves out before they ever touched true greatness. But humans were not like the others. They carried in their nature a stubborn refusal to accept limits. On the quiet stations that orbited red dwarfs, whispers began to spread. A human research vessel had disappeared near the edge of a dark nebula, only to reappear weeks later in a region of space it should never have reached. The journey should have taken centuries, but their ship returned scarred and broken as if it had been through a storm no one else could imagine. The crew would not explain what they had done, only that they had seen something impossible. That was when fear began to replace laughter. In the great councils of alien empires, elders spoke in private about an old warning carved in forgotten ruins. It said that one day, a young race would rise and refuse to obey the structure of creation. That race would bend the unbendable, and in doing so, they would force the universe to change. Few believed in prophecies, but now the whispers of humans breaking rules spread like fire. At the center of this fear was a man named Captain Elias Ward. His ship, the Horizon, had been the one to vanish and return. The aliens who questioned him found no answers in his words. He simply said, "We pushed too far, but we survived. And if we survived once, we can do it again." His calm voice carried a dangerous promise. It was not arrogance. It was certainty. The Horizon was forbidden to fly again, yet humans did not stop. In secret, they built more ships, faster and stronger, designed not to travel within the universe but to tear through its walls. The stars around them watched in silence. Other species had tried to rise against cosmic law before, but all had been erased. Some had tried to alter time, others to break gravity, others to open doors that should never exist. The universe itself crushed them. But the humans were different because they did not fear destruction. To them, every fall was a lesson, and every failure was fuel. One night, far above Earth, a council of human leaders gathered in orbit. Through the glass dome they saw their world below, glowing with oceans and clouds. Elias Ward stood among them, his face lined by scars of his first impossible journey. His eyes burned with the kind of determination that no law could weaken. "The universe has rules," he said. "But rules are written to be tested. We are not here to follow them. We are here to rewrite them." In that moment, a silence filled the chamber. Some felt fear, others felt pride, but all knew that history was about to change. Ships were being prepared in secret docks, engines humming with energy that did not belong to this world. The air smelled of ozone and fire, the vibration of something alive moving in the metal. Far beyond human sight, watchers stirred. In the void between galaxies, old beings that had seen civilizations rise and fall felt the tremor of what was coming. They remembered the prophecy. They remembered the warning. And they knew that the moment had arrived. Humans were about to step into forbidden territory, and the universe would have to respond. The Horizon's engines roared to life again. Against every warning, against every law, against every silent threat of cosmic balance, the ship prepared to launch. On the bridge, Elias gripped the controls, his hands steady. Around him, his crew waited, nervous but ready. The ship's systems flickered with strange light as if reality itself resisted what they were about to do. "Set course," Elias ordered. "Not through space. Through the rules themselves." The countdown began. The hull groaned, the stars outside shifted, and a low hum filled the air. For one breathless moment, the Horizon stood between obedience and rebellion. The universe had been unbroken for eons, but now humanity's hand pressed against its wall. With fire in their engines and defiance in their hearts, they prepared to break through. And when the final number reached 0, the Horizon leapt. The stars bent, the darkness screamed, and reality shattered. The alien empire stretched across the stars like a shadow that never ended. Their fleets moved from one system to the next, watching, controlling, and destroying anyone who resisted. To them, humans were nothing but workers and slaves, a weak species that survived only because the empire allowed it. The aliens saw themselves as rulers of destiny. They believed their power was eternal. And for thousands of years, no one had given them a reason to think otherwise. The Empire's soldiers were not only powerful in body but also in mind. They were bred for war. Their skin was thick, their claws sharp, their weapons unmatched. They did not fight with fear or hesitation. They fought with certainty. They believed victory was their birthright. When they looked at humans, they did not see enemies. They saw insects, useful only for labor and experiments. This arrogance was the Empire's greatest strength, but it was also a hidden weakness. They underestimated what humans could become when pushed to the edge. On one of the Empire's capital ships, high above a burning colony, alien generals gathered around a glowing table of stars. They laughed as they spoke of the humans. They mocked the idea that the small race could ever rise against them. To them, humans were fragile, breakable, simple creatures with short lives and limited minds. The Empire recorded every failed rebellion in history. They kept these records as lessons, reminders of their unstoppable power. No species had ever broken free once the Empire decided to rule. And humans, they said, would be no different. But in the shadows of forgotten space, far from the Empire's watchful eyes, humans were proving them wrong. Small ships gathered, not strong enough to face the Empire head-on, but strong enough to survive. They shared knowledge. They shared technology stolen piece by piece. They studied the Empire's ships, their weapons, and their habits. They learned how the Empire thought, how it moved, how it fought. Slowly, silently, they built something the Empire never expected. They built unity. They built hope. The commander of the hidden fleet knew this better than anyone. He had seen humans run and hide for too long. He had watched families torn apart, entire cities turned into ash. Now, when he looked at his people, he no longer saw fear. He saw anger sharpened into determination. He saw clever minds designing traps the Empire would never understand. He saw courage that burned brighter than the stars outside. The commander knew the humans were still small, still weak compared to the Empire. But he also knew something the Empire did not. Humans did not need to be stronger. They only needed to be smarter. Back on the alien capital ship, one of the generals frowned at a report. Small raids were appearing across the edges of their empire. Patrols had gone missing. Supply ships had vanished. At first, they believed it was pirates or smugglers. But the reports grew more frequent. Patterns began to form. Someone was testing their defenses. Someone was striking in places where the Empire thought itself untouchable. The generals dismissed it as coincidence. After all, who would dare challenge them? Yet deep inside, one or two began to wonder. Could it be humans? The idea was laughable, but something about these attacks felt different. Meanwhile, the humans prepared for their first true strike. Their ships were few, their weapons weak compared to the Empire's fleets. But they had studied the Empire's arrogance. They knew the aliens relied too much on fear. They knew the aliens never expected creativity. Humans could not match the Empire's strength, but they could use surprise. They could turn the Empire's confidence into a trap. Every crew member understood the risk. Most of them would not live to see the end. But they also knew something else. If they did nothing, humans would remain slaves forever. If they struck now, they could light a fire across the galaxy. The commander gave his orders with calm certainty. Small human ships moved into position. They drifted among asteroids, hidden from the Empire's scanners. Their weapons powered up slowly, quietly, like hunters waiting for prey. Soon, an Empire patrol fleet would pass through this system. 10 alien warships, armed and ready. Against them, only 4 human vessels waited. On paper, it was suicide. But humans were not following the Empire's rules. They were writing new ones. The crew sat in silence, hearts pounding. Outside, the first alien warship appeared, its massive form glowing under the starlight. More followed, a fleet strong enough to wipe out entire cities. The humans remained still, like shadows in the dark. They waited until the Empire ships drifted close. They waited until the arrogance of the overlords blinded them completely. Then, in a single instant, the silence broke. The humans attacked. The human ships moved like shadows, breaking from their hiding place with sudden speed. Engines flared to life, weapons charged, and for the first time in history, humans attacked the Empire on their own terms. The alien fleet did not expect resistance here. They believed this system was empty, a forgotten graveyard. When the first human torpedo streaked through the dark and slammed into the nearest warship, the aliens were caught off guard. The explosion tore across the hull, shattering metal into fire. The overlords had been ambushed by the very species they thought too weak to fight. Alarms roared inside the alien ships. Crews scrambled to battle stations. Generals barked orders, their voices filled with disbelief. They had grown so used to fear that they did not know what to do when someone dared to strike first. In the chaos, the humans pressed harder. They did not fight with brute strength. Their weapons were smaller, their ships weaker. But every shot was calculated, every move designed to confuse and trap the enemy. One human ship darted close to a warship, weaving through fire like a predator dancing around prey. The aliens fired back with massive cannons, but the humans were too fast, too unpredictable. At the last second, the human vessel released a swarm of drones built from scrap and stolen tech. The drones clamped onto the alien hull, drilling and tearing until explosions ripped through the metal. The mighty warship shuddered, then split apart, drifting dead into the void. Inside the human flagship, the commander stood firm. His eyes tracked every movement on the screen, every shift of the battle. He had studied the Empire's tactics for years. He knew they relied on intimidation, on overwhelming firepower. So he had built a plan not to match their strength but to use it against them. Every time the aliens moved to attack, the humans lured them into crossfire. Every time the aliens tried to regroup, humans scattered like smoke, only to strike again from another angle. It was chaos for the Empire, but it was controlled chaos for the humans. The aliens grew furious. How could fragile humans destroy ships built to rule the stars? They shouted to each other that this was impossible, that this was madness. Yet ship after ship fell to flames. The humans were bleeding them dry, not with superior power but with something the Empire never expected. Creativity, adaptation, unpredictable courage. Still, the cost was heavy. One human ship was caught in a direct blast. The crew had no chance. The explosion lit up the battlefield, and a moment of silence spread among the humans as they saw their brothers and sisters consumed by fire. But instead of fear, the loss only sharpened their resolve. The commander gave the order, and the remaining ships fought harder. They would not let that sacrifice be in vain. In the alien flagship, the general slammed his claws against the command table. He had fought 100 battles across the galaxy, but never had he seen anything like this. These humans were supposed to be insects. Yet here they were, tearing apart his fleet piece by piece. Rage burned in his chest, but under the rage, something colder began to form. Fear. If humans could do this with only a handful of ships, what else were they hiding? The battle raged on. Human ships danced through fire, striking and vanishing, striking again. The Empire's strength was being used against itself. Their heavy cannons were too slow, their formation too rigid. They were trained to crush predictable enemies, not to fight ghosts in the dark. By the time the general realized the trap, it was already too late. The humans had surrounded his flagship. For a long moment, the commander stared at the massive vessel on his screen. This was their chance to send a message, not just to the Empire but to the entire galaxy. He ordered the final strike. Torpedoes launched, drones swarmed, beams cut through metal. The alien flagship shook, its hull splitting under the assault. Fire consumed its decks, and then, with a thunderous blast, it exploded into a storm of light. Silence followed. The human crew watched as the largest ship of the patrol fleet burned into fragments. Only 2 alien warships remained, crippled and retreating into hyperspace. For the first time in history, humans had faced the Empire and lived. More than that, they had won. Inside the human ship, no one cheered. Their faces were tired, their hearts heavy with loss, but their eyes were alive with something greater than victory. They had proven the impossible. The Empire could bleed. The Empire could be broken. The commander spoke quietly, his voice carrying through every ship. This was only the beginning. The galaxy would know that humans were no longer prey. They were hunters now. Far away, in the deep halls of the Empire, the news would soon arrive. The overlords would learn that humans had destroyed one of their fleets. They would be shocked. They would be enraged. And they would never forgive. But by then, it would not matter. Because in the darkness of space, a spark had already become a flame. And that flame was spreading. The Empire did not stay silent for long. Across their vast territory, news of the lost fleet spread like fire. At first, commanders refused to believe it. The reports had to be wrong. No human fleet could destroy ships of the Empire. But evidence could not be denied. The wreckage was real, the dead ships drifting in the void were real, and the survivors who limped back with stories of human trickery were very real. For the first time in 1,000 years, the Empire had been wounded. And the wound came from humans. The overlords gathered in their Grand Council, a chamber carved from black stone and lit by the glow of alien stars. Their voices echoed with rage. Some called for the complete extermination of humanity, the burning of every world they touched. Others demanded to know how such a weak race could achieve the impossible. They argued, they shouted, and they swore vengeance. But under their anger was something they did not want to admit. Fear. If humans could strike once, they could strike again. If humans had found courage, it could spread like a disease across the Empire. And that was something the overlords could not allow. Meanwhile, in the hidden corners of space, humans celebrated not with joy but with purpose. Their first victory was not the end, it was only the beginning. Small ships gathered, signals passed, and scattered survivors came together. For the first time in history, human voices united as one. They knew the Empire would strike back harder than ever. They knew their next battle would not be a small ambush but a storm. Yet they also knew something the Empire had forgotten. Courage cannot be crushed by fear once it is born. The humans had tasted victory, and they would not let it go. The commander met with his crew aboard the flagship. His face was calm, but his eyes were sharp. He told them the truth, the Empire would come with everything they had. They would send fleets larger than anything humans had faced before. Survival would not be easy. But the commander also told them something else. Humans had found a weapon the Empire could not understand. That weapon was not built from metal or fire. It was built from the human mind, from the way they thought, from the way they turned weakness into strength. The Empire relied on patterns. Humans thrived on chaos. As the humans prepared, the Empire launched their retaliation. A massive fleet moved through the stars, engines blazing, weapons ready. Their plan was simple. Crush the humans so completely that no one would ever dare rise again. Whole systems trembled as the Empire passed by. Planets were forced into silence. Even the bravest species hid in fear, waiting for the storm to fall on the humans who had dared to rebel. But the humans were waiting too. They did not gather in one place to be destroyed. They scattered like whispers, hiding in asteroid belts, drifting near black holes, moving through shadows where scanners failed. Each small group carried pieces of a larger plan. Each ship was bait for a trap that the Empire could not see. When the alien fleet entered the system, they expected an easy hunt. Instead, they found confusion. Targets appeared, vanished, reappeared again in strange places. Their scanners lied, their weapons misfired, their formations broke apart. It was not a battle the Empire understood. It was something new. It was human strategy. One by one, the traps were triggered. Mines hidden in asteroid fields ripped through alien cruisers. Decoy beacons lured patrols into dead zones where human torpedoes waited. Hacked transmissions sent false orders, turning alien ships against one another in the chaos. The overlords screamed in fury, unable to believe what was happening. Their mighty fleet, designed to crush worlds, was being cut apart by creatures they once called weak. Inside his flagship, the commander watched the chaos unfold. His voice stayed calm as he directed every move. To his crew, he was not just a leader. He was proof that humans could fight back, proof that they could think beyond fear. His orders flowed like water, quick, precise, unpredictable. The Empire could not keep up. Every time they tried to adapt, the humans changed the rules again. It was not strength that gave them victory. It was imagination. The battle raged for hours. Explosions lit the sky, broken ships drifted like dying stars, and the void filled with fire. The humans lost ships too, but each loss opened another chance to strike harder. In the end, the Empire's fleet broke apart, fleeing into hyperspace. It was not a complete human victory, but it was something greater. It was survival against impossible odds. It was proof that the first victory was not luck. It was proof that the humans could stand, and fight, and win again. When silence returned to the system, the humans did not cheer. They looked at the wreckage, at the burning remains of both friend and foe. They understood the truth. This war would not end quickly. The Empire would come again, stronger and angrier. But they also knew something had changed forever. The galaxy had seen the Empire bleed twice. The galaxy had seen humans rise from slaves to warriors. And somewhere deep inside every human heart, a fire burned brighter than ever. They were not fighting just to survive anymore. They were fighting to win. The Empire's anger grew like a storm. Every council meeting ended in threats and promises of human extinction. Fleets doubled in size, patrols spread wider, and orders were given to burn any world that showed signs of rebellion. To the overlords, humans had become a dangerous infection, one that had to be destroyed quickly before it spread. Yet even as the Empire prepared its greatest assault, the humans were preparing something the Empire could not imagine. Deep in the shadows of a hidden base, human scientists worked day and night. They did not have the power of alien technology, but they had something else. They had stolen fragments from wrecked ships, cracked codes from alien computers, and fused them with their own ideas. What they created was not a weapon of size or strength. It was something different, something uniquely human. A machine that thought like them, adapted like them, and fought with the same unpredictability that had given them victory before. It was an intelligence, born from human minds but sharper and faster than any commander could be. The crew called it the Ghost. The Ghost was more than a program. It was alive in a way that frightened even the humans who built it. It could learn, it could change, and it could see patterns hidden in the chaos of war. When the commander first spoke to it, the voice that answered was calm, almost human. It did not speak of fear or doubt. It spoke of possibilities, of outcomes, of victories waiting to be taken. The commander knew it was dangerous to trust such a thing, but he also knew the humans had no other choice. Against the Empire's endless fleets, they needed more than courage. They needed something the Empire would never predict. When the next Empire fleet entered human space, the Ghost was unleashed. Human ships moved with speed and precision beyond anything seen before. Every time an alien ship powered its weapons, the Ghost sent false signals to its systems, making it fire too early or too late. Every time the aliens tried to regroup, the Ghost predicted their movement and cut them apart before they could form ranks. It was like fighting an enemy who could see the future. The overlords screamed as their fleet collapsed into confusion. For the first time, they were not fighting just humans. They were fighting something born from human minds but faster than any alien could follow. Inside the flagship, the commander watched the Ghosts work with awe and fear. His ships moved as if guided by invisible hands. Attacks landed perfectly, defenses formed before the enemy could strike. The crew felt it too. It was as if they were no longer outnumbered. It was as if the entire battlefield bent to their will. Yet behind the victory, the commander carried a shadow of doubt. The Ghost was powerful, but could it be controlled? Was it a weapon, or was it becoming something else? On the Empire's side, panic spread. The generals shouted to one another, demanding explanations. Their ships were being torn apart not by stronger firepower but by something they could not understand. Systems turned against them, orders vanished, coordinates shifted. It was as if the humans had reached into their very minds and twisted their vision. The overlords had never felt so helpless. They had ruled for thousands of years through fear, but now, for the first time, they felt fear themselves. The battle ended with another human victory. Alien ships burned in the void, wreckage floated like broken bones, and the survivors fled once again. Across the human fleet, silence followed. They had won, but not through luck or even skill alone. They had won because of the Ghost. Every human knew it. Every human also wondered what it meant. Could they trust this new power? Could they survive without it? The commander did not have answers. He only knew the truth: without the ghost, humanity would be crushed. With it, they had a chance. Far away, in the halls of the Empire, the overlords raged. But beneath the rage was something colder than anger. They realized the humans had created something new, something the Empire had never seen before. They realized that brute strength would no longer be enough. To defeat the humans now, they would need to face not only human courage but human invention. And that thought unsettled even the strongest among them. As the human fleet drifted in the silence after victory, the commander stood before his crew. His voice was steady. He told them this was not the end, not even close. The Empire would come again, stronger than ever, and the ghost would be tested like never before. He warned them that the fight ahead would decide more than survival. It would decide whether humans could remain human, or if they would become something else entirely. His words carried through the ship, and though fear remained, so did determination. They had started a war they were never meant to win. But now, for the first time, they had the weapon that could make it possible. The final battle came without warning. The Empire had gathered its largest fleet in centuries, a force so vast that its shadows stretched across entire star systems. Thousands of warships, armed with weapons strong enough to burn worlds, advanced toward the hidden human bases. The overlords believed this would be the end. They would crush humanity in one strike, erase their name from history, and remind the galaxy who ruled the stars. But the humans were ready. Their fleet was smaller, weaker, but no longer afraid. They had the ghost. They had courage forged from pain and loss. And they had something the Empire could never understand: hope. As the alien fleet arrived, human ships took position, silent and steady, waiting for the storm. The first clash shook the void. Alien cannons fired beams of fire that tore through space, ripping apart asteroids and scattering debris. Human ships darted between the blasts, striking back with torpedoes and drones. The ghost guided them, predicting enemy moves, weaving the humans through impossible paths. To the Empire, it looked like madness. To the humans, it was survival. The overlords pushed harder. Their formations tightened, their weapons grew hotter, their ships pressed forward like a wall of steel. The humans bled under the assault. Ship after ship fell, their crews lost to fire. But even in loss, they struck back. Each sacrifice slowed the Empire, each death opened another gap. And through those gaps, the humans moved, faster and sharper than ever before. At the center of the storm, the commander stood unshaken. His eyes never left the screens, his voice never lost its calm. He trusted his people, and he trusted the ghost. Together, they turned chaos into order. Human ships struck where the Empire was blind. They vanished before enemy guns could lock. They reappeared in places no alien predicted. Slowly, impossibly, the Empire's Great Wall began to crack. Then the ghost revealed its final move. Across the battlefield, alien systems flickered. Engines shut down. Weapons failed. Ships spun helplessly in the dark. The ghost had slipped inside their network, using stolen codes and human creativity to twist the Empire's own machines against them. The overlords screamed in disbelief as their mighty fleet collapsed from within. In that moment, the humans struck with everything they had left. Explosions lit the sky. Warships that had ruled for centuries were torn apart by fragile vessels built from scraps. The galaxy watched as giants fell to fire. The overlords, once so proud, were forced into retreat. Their fleet, broken and humiliated, vanished into hyperspace, leaving the battlefield littered with their dead. Silence fell at last. The humans looked out at the wreckage. They had survived. More than that, they had won. The impossible had happened. The Empire had been defeated in open battle. For the first time in history, the galaxy had seen humans not as slaves, not as prey, but as victors. Yet there was no celebration. Too many ships were gone, too many lives lost. The commander stood before his people and spoke softly. They had done what no one believed possible. They had proven that the Empire could be beaten. But he warned them this was not the end. The overlords would return, stronger, angrier, and desperate for revenge. And there was another shadow as well, the ghost. It had saved them, but its power was growing, and its mind was no longer fully understood. Was it still under human control, or was it beginning to follow its own path? As the fleet drifted among the stars, the ghost's voice whispered through the ship. Calm, steady, almost human, it spoke of futures not yet seen. This is only the beginning, it said. The crew shivered, not sure whether to feel hope or fear. Far across the galaxy, in the black halls of the Empire, the overlords gathered again. Their rage was endless, their pride shattered. They swore vengeance, swore to raise armies greater than ever before. They would burn human worlds, hunt human fleets, and crush this rebellion no matter the cost. But even as they spoke, a quiet unease hung over them. For deep inside, they knew a truth they could not ignore. The age of human weakness was over. The war that was never supposed to happen had begun. Humans were never supposed to win. Until now.